All right, so as the title suggests, in this video, I'm going over my top 10 inspirations for this winter. I really feel like this is a pretty solid list. I have about three, honorable mentions on this list as well. And I mean, really, the three on the honorable mentions list, these could have easily been on the list, on, the actual full list as well. Not to say that the ones on the honorable mentions list are, any less than, what's on the actual list. I just think that the way that I have this list set up, I think was really perfect. All right. So the first honorable mention, this one is going to be Ighwa from French Avenue. So this is French Avenue's take on YSL's Tuxedo. Really, I would say the best YSL Tuxedo inspired fragrance that you can find out there, in terms of quality, in terms of performance, and, obviously in terms of price. I really think that this is really the best that you can find. I would say almost identical really to Tuxedo. I didn't really pick up on any sort of noticeable differences between this and Tuxedo, other than the fact that this actually came off slightly stronger than what Tuxedo did and actually lasted a little bit longer. So, again, I mean, if you're looking for something that's, I would say relatively affordable, I think this normally goes for like around that $40 to $50 mark. And, obviously you're not looking to buy the original, which is much more than what this is. Then I do think that the Ighwa from French Avenue would be, it would absolutely be the best choice for you. In terms of like the performance on this one, again, this one I actually get better projection and longevity, than what I do with the original. So again, man, check out Ighwa from French Avenue. And then the next honorable mention is Rayhan's Crimson. So this is their take on Creed Centaurus. Really good interpretation. Obviously not as well blended and as high quality as what the Creed is. But this, so far, and I mean, I've only really smelled one other, sort of fragrance that smells similar to Centaurus. But of the two that I've smelled, I think that this was definitely the closer sort of fragrance to Centaurus. Definitely it has a little bit more, emphasis on like that heliotrope floral note. It is definitely amplified a little bit more in this fragrance. But you still get that sort of, sweet cinnamon and tobacco feel that you would get from Centaurus. Obviously, again, with it not being as smooth in this fragrance as what it is in Centaurus, but outside of that and like the sort of amplified heliotrope note that you get in Crimson, I really think that this is super close to Centaurus and a really good affordable alternative to it. All right. Also performs very good as well. And then the third honorable mention on the list, this one is going to be Lattafa's Teriaq Intense. So a really nice, sweet, ambery, vanillic, sort of slightly woody kind of scent. I really think that, this also is a good, it's more than just good for, the winter time. I think this is also good for like the fall and the spring. And even if you live in like a climate where it doesn't get super hot, at night in the summertime, this would also be, good for like summertime, nighttime wear. So really good, man. Like I said, it's very kind of ambery, slightly, you could say boozy, woody, spicy type of scent. It does have that plum liquor note in it. It definitely, it has, like I said, a very kind of ambery, woody type of feel to it. Very unisex also. So I do think that definitely men and women could absolutely rock this one for sure. And has just a ton of versatility and really high quality coming from, a cheaper Middle Eastern house, man. So performance on this is also pretty good as well. Well over 8 hours. So definitely, again, man, check out Lattafa's Teriaq Intense. All right, and then so the first fragrance of the actual top 10 list is going to be Joe Milano's Game of Spades Wildcard. really close to Bond number 9 Lafayette Street. The florals, I would say, are definitely, they're a little bit higher quality in the Bond number 9 for sure. But I mean, outside of that, this is still a very close and really good interpretation of Lafayette Street. I don't think that the slightly higher quality florals that you get in the Bond number 9 really are worth the extra price that you pay for the Bond number 9 over something like this. Also, the Bond number 9 doesn't last or doesn't perform as well as what the Game of Spades Wildcard does either. So, this performs well over 8 hours for me, and, it smells well over 90% close to, the original fragrance. This is it's also a pretty versatile scent as well. I mean, I tend to more so reach for this one in the wintertime out here in Vegas, but I do think that this is still another one of those fragrances that a lot of people could probably rock all year round, especially if they don't live somewhere where it's like super hot all the time. But yeah, man, this is a very it starts off very fresh with like a huge blast of bergamot. Then it turns, very kind of like vanillic and floral. Definitely I think there's a large dose of tonka in this as well. You get a lot of ambroxan. So very mass appealing, very easy to wear, very versatile type of scent that, at least for me anyway, like I said, I definitely more so reach for something like this in the winter time. So again, man, definitely check out Game of Spades Wildcard from Joe Milano. All right, next one on the list, man. This one was a surprise, at least for me, man. This one is from Paris Corner, and this is a part of their North Stag collection, and this is Paris Corner's Deux. So this is their take on Parfums de Marly's Layton, and this one was surprisingly good, man. At the time that I purchased this fragrance, I had already had the Woods Collection Dusk. And, that one was definitely, it was pretty close to Layton as well. I mean, I had Layton before I bought that fragrance. And once I got the Woods Collection Dusk, I felt like that was close enough to Layton to where it was kind of like I didn't really need Layton like that. So I just sold it and got some money for it. But this for sure is even closer to Layton than what the Woods Collection Dusk is. It just smells higher quality. It's a little bit closer to Layton, especially in the opening. I would say the opening is definitely a little bit closer to Layton, but just like I said, overall it does smell like the higher quality, closer interpretation to Layton. If you're not familiar with Layton and the way it smells, it basically starts off very kind of fresh and spicy. So you kind of get like this apple and cardamom and lavender in the opening. And then that kind of transitions into, like some spices and vanilla. You do get some, I think like some kind of creamy sort of sandalwood in the dry down as well. It's a very mass appealing, again, in my opinion, very easy to wear, type of fall and winter time type of scent. Definitely for me, again, I definitely tend to reach for this in the winter time. At least out here in Vegas, we don't really have a fall like that. Like, in the fall months, it's still well over like 90 degrees normally outside, here in Vegas during that time of the year. So at least for me, fall, I'm still definitely rocking more kind of like lighter or fresher types of scents. But this is definitely for me like one of my favorites to wear during the winter time. Get pretty decent performance out of this as well, like around 8 hours or so. And the projection for me is like about what it is for, Layton as well, at least the sort of current batches of Layton anyway. So again, man, definitely check out Deux from Paris Corner if you're looking for a solid Layton interpretation. Next one on the list, this one is from French Avenue, and this is Royal Blend Nero. So Royal Blend Nero, this is basically, it's going to be very, sort of similar to like the Lattafa Camera DNA. This to me though is definitely higher quality smelling, and I just overall I do prefer this, you know, in terms of how it smells over Lattafa's Camera. I feel like with this fragrance, this is actually a little bit more sort of masculine smelling. It's still to me a very kind of unisex type of scent, but it is definitely a little bit more masculine leaning than what something like Camera is. And the reason for that is, at least on my skin anyway, when I wear this, you're still getting like that, you know, sort of sweet dates, you know, that date sweetness that you get from Camera along with the, you know, sort of spices. But in this one, I pick up a noticeable kind of like leathery saffron note in this fragrance. And I think that definitely, that makes this fragrance, you know, a lot more kind of like straight down the middle unisex. Whereas you could definitely say that, you know, Camera, with how sweet it comes across, it's definitely sweeter than this. I do think the Camera, you could say, comes across, you know, maybe a little bit more on the feminine leaning side. But like I said, this overall, when you smell this side by side with Camera, to me, there is like a noticeable sort of quality difference between this and Camera. And I mean, at least for me, you know, especially with what this typically goes for, I want to say normally this goes for like around $30 or so, maybe 25 at the very lowest. Whereas, you know, Camera you can get for about $20. I do think to, you know, spend $5 to $10 more, you do get a better fragrance with the Royal Blend Nero for sure. Now, I haven't smelled what this is actually inspired by, you know, this and Camera, which is Sava from Gissa. But I would assume that this is probably closer to what Sava smells like. Because this does, to me, I don't know, it smells a little bit more kind of sophisticated than what, you know, Camera does. All right. So this also does perform very, very well, well over 8 hours, and you get really, really good, you know, beast mode projection for like the first 2 to 3 hours. All right. So definitely, again, man, if you're into that sort of Camera scent profile, but you're looking for something maybe a little bit more refined and, you know, maybe slightly more just straight down the middle unisex, then I would definitely recommend Royal Blend Nero. All right, next on the list, this one is from Swiss Arabian, and this is Swiss Arabian's Tobacco 01. So Tobacco 01, I can say for sure, like within my whole collection, I do think that this is probably one of my favorite sort of tobacco scents that I have. It definitely, it smells like, you know, some other tobacco fragrances that I think, you know, a lot of people are definitely familiar with for sure. But it never at one point smells like it's like a clone of any of those fragrances. So at least for me, what I mainly get from this is like a mixture of Initio Side Effect, Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, and Dior's Tobacular. You know, I get, you know, elements of all of those scents all in one basically with this one. You could say in the opening, it does kind of start off similar to something like Initio Side Effect. Definitely not exactly the same at all, I would say that for sure. But, you know, probably to most people when they smell this in the opening, that's probably going to be the first fragrance that this is going to remind them of, is Side Effect. And then as it starts to dry down, you kind of get hints of, you know, again, Dior's Tobacular and Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. So a very kind of like, you know, refined, sophisticated, high quality, very unisex, you know, type of tobacco scent. Like I can't say that this leans feminine, and I can't say that it leans masculine at all, really. I mean, to me, it's just kind of straight down the middle. And I do think that anybody, male or female, could absolutely wear this fragrance for sure and rock it with no problem. This is just going to be a fragrance, in my opinion, that you would definitely want to wear like when it's cooler outside, like, you know, probably 50 degrees and below for sure is when you would want to reach for this. But it's a very beautiful, like I said, sophisticated, high quality, really, really well performing tobacco fragrance, man. This is gonna last you well over 12 hours. It is an extrait de parfum, so you don't really need that many sprays. Gives you really, really good projection as well. So again, you really don't need to go that heavy on the sprays with this. I would say probably less is more. You know, because if you go too heavy with this, it will become cloying, probably will give you a headache, and it's probably going to annoy other people as well. This is going to be one that I think probably 3 sprays is about all you need, and that's going to give you a really good scent bubble and allow other people to kind of, you know, appreciate the smell as well, man. So again, definitely check out Swiss Arabian's Tobacco 01. All right, next one on the list. This one is another one from French Avenue, and this is French Avenue's Vulcan Sable. So Vulcan Sable, I feel like this one doesn't get that much love, or as much love probably as what it deserves, because of Vulcan Few. But this is also a very good interpretation of Sandance from Stefan Humbert Lucas. This fragrance, while I wish it definitely had a little bit more of that sort of whiskey note that you get in the initial opening of Sandance, this definitely is stronger and more realistic in Sandance. I do still think that, you know, this is still a very, very nice, high quality, sexy, you know, interpretation of the scent, man. Yeah, I mean, you do get that boozy whiskey note in the opening of this, but when you smell it next to Sandance, it definitely smells more realistic in Sandance. I can say that for sure. And it's stronger as well. It's stronger. The booziness from that whiskey lasts a little bit longer in the original Sandance. But I mean, I would say really kind of outside of like that initial sort of opening with the you know, the boozy whiskey note that you get, this is extremely close to Sandance really after that for the most part. You know, I mean, basically what this is again, it's a very kind of like boozy whiskey sort of opening, and then you kind of turn, you basically you go into like this sort of powdery dark chocolate type of smell. So it's like boozy, dusty, you know, with that dark chocolate. It's woody. In my opinion, this is a pretty masculine scent profile. I believe that this, you know, this scent profile in general is still kind of, you know, considered like a unisex type of scent profile, but at least in my opinion, I feel like mainly this would be something that men would wear. And I think that this is perfect for, you know, when it's cooler weather outside for sure. The way that sort of dusty dark chocolate is kind of like cacao powder basically, the way that plays with the sort of boozy whiskey that you get in this fragrance, it's just a really, really nice scent, man. I know some people don't necessarily care for it, but I think, you know, if you like scents like, you know, Givenchy's, what is it, Gentleman's Reserve Privé, I believe is what it's called. Not saying that this smells exactly like that, but to me, they kind of have some similarity. So I think if you like fragrances like that, you will like this. I do like this one a little bit more than what I do Reserve Privé. And, you know, again, the performance on this one is pretty good, man. Well over 10 hours. Really, really beast mode projection, at least for about the first 2 to 3 hours. And, you know, again, man, this is a very, very close interpretation of Sandance for a very affordable price. So again, check out Vulcan Sable from French Avenue. All right, next one on the list. This one is from Banadir Fragrances, and this is Banadir Fragrances number 2. So number 2 This is their take on Parfums de Marly's Altair. So, you know, for most people, the best interpretation of Altair is probably going to be Liquid Broom from French Avenue. That is absolutely a solid interpretation of French Avenue, or I'm sorry, of Altair. But to me, this is just ever so slightly just a little bit better than what the French Avenue version is. I can definitely say for sure that this does, it projects a little bit more than what the French Avenue does. And just overall, it does kind of have a slightly higher quality smell than what the French Avenue does. The initial opening, just like the French Avenue, is going to be a little bit more fresher in the original Parfums de Marly. But, you know, that, again, it only lasts for maybe like the first 3 minutes or so, 3 to 5 minutes. And then after that, I would say this is really identical to Altair for the most part. It smells of the exact same quality that you get with Altair. And it actually, again, it gives you slightly better projection and performance. So this to me is definitely the hands down the best Altair interpretation that you can find out there, man. So Banadir fragrances, man, I would say if you're not familiar with them, definitely check them out, man. BanadirFragrances.com. They're basically, even though they have their own fragrances, for the most part, they kind of sell other Middle Eastern, you know, style houses. So they're kind of like the Oud store, except, you know, the owner has started making, you know, his own fragrances. And these fragrances, most of them, they come, I would say, the closest that I've smelled from any other interpretation house that I've smelled. So again, man, definitely check out Banadir's number 2. All right, next one on the list. This one is from another one from Paris Corner, man. Another really surprisingly good fragrance. And this one was Farah from Paris Corner. So as you can see, you know, the bottle, this is an interpretation of Initio's Side Effect. And I mean, to be honest with you, even though this fragrance is not like a one-to-one Side Effect, you know, there are definitely some differences between this and Side Effect. I like this one more than I do Side Effect, to be honest with you. It just, the way that the blend is done on this fragrance, I like this fragrance a little bit more than I do Side Effect. Side Effect definitely is a little bit heavier on the tobacco, especially in like the dry down. Whereas this fragrance, you basically, you get like a really sort of like equal blend or equal balance of, you know, like the tobacco, the booziness, the spices, all of that is just kind of like very kind of smooth and linear, which, you know, I do like. Whereas, like I said, in the original Side Effect, the tobacco in that fragrance, you could definitely tell it's a little bit louder in Side Effect for sure. So, you know, I think this fragrance, you could say, is probably a little bit more like just kind of like straight down the middle unisex. I still feel like Side Effect is a very kind of like, you know, unisex type of scent. But you could say that Side Effect maybe is a little bit more masculine leaning, at least in the dry down anyway. But yeah, man, I really, really love this one. It does perform very, very well also. I mean, I'm talking at least well over 8 hours. And I would say the projection is slightly more dialed back than what it is in Side Effect. The projection on this is, I would say, it's kind of just right, to be honest with you. Like, it's not too loud to the, you know, to the point where like it's really easy to kind of overspray this one. Because I noticed that one. I noticed that with like my After Effect bottle from French Avenue that I had. Like, if you sprayed that one probably over 5 times, it definitely became a lot. Whereas with this one, I can spray this one easily like 5 to 6 times or so, and it never really becomes like headache inducing or anything like that. So I really love what they did with this one, man. Like I said, I do actually prefer this one over the original, and definitely I do prefer it over After Effect from French Avenue. So again, man, definitely check out Paris Corner's Farah. All right, next one on the list. This one is another Royal Blend fragrance from French Avenue, and this is Royal Blend Sequoia. All right, so I mean, really, I would say you could easily, you know, interchange this or the original Royal Blend because they're very similar. This is just a fragrance that I've kind of had, you could say, more experience with here lately, you could say, because I just kind of picked this one up and, you know, was doing like the comparison between this and the Lattafa version. I feel like this is a very good, you know, interpretation of the scent profile, and it actually is enough of a twist on Angel Share Parody to where this to me is actually, it's a little bit better than Angel Share Parody. I don't necessarily care for how, you know, overly woody Angel Share Parody is. And also the rose in that fragrance, I feel like is dialed up a little bit more. Whereas you know, in this fragrance, Royal Blend Sequoia, you're getting a little bit more raspberry. So, you know, it definitely, it makes it smell a little bit more mass appealing to me. But, you know, outside of like, you know, again, the woodiness and like the differences between like the rose, I feel like outside of that, the two fragrances, they do smell very similar. So, I mean, I would say this is still probably like around 85 to 90+% close or so to Angel Share Parody. But it does have some slight differences that, you know, at least for me, you know, it makes it a little bit more wearable. I do still think that, you know, if I had Angel Share Parody, I would still wear the fragrance, but I don't think I would like it as much as what I do Royal Blend Sequoia. Now, you do have, again, like the original Royal Blend. That to me is more kind of like a one-to-one to the original Angel Share. So, you know, again, that one I would say is kind of interchangeable with this, because I feel like if you like that Angel Share, you know, scent DNA, you're gonna like either this or you're gonna like the Royal Blend as well. So it just all kind of, you know, depends. But I feel like both really you can't go wrong with. I just, like I said, I've had a little bit more experience here lately with this fragrance, and I do kind of like that extra sort of raspberry twist, you know, that they put on the fragrance. So yeah, man, this is really good. I would say, again, it is a little bit better and a little bit more higher quality than the Lattafa Fire on Ice. And the performance on this is also very good as well. Doesn't project as sort of beast mode as what, you know, the original Angel Share parody does, but it does still last a very long time. And the projection, I would say, is still very much, you know, respectable for sure. So it's not like the projection like is lacking necessarily. It's just not as strong as what the original fragrance is. All right. So again, man, definitely check out Royal Blend Sequoia from French Avenue. All right, next one on the list. This one is another Banadir fragrance. This one I just have a sample of, but I'm sure I'll have a bottle of this one pretty soon. This one is Banadir's number 23, and this is their take on YSL's Baby Cat. So this fragrance, and I mean, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet, but this is another one of their like really good like one-to-one matches basically to the original fragrance. This smells identical to YSL Baby Cat. There's absolutely no difference that I can pick up between this and YSL's Baby Cat. And I mean, I've smelled some really good high quality interpretations of Baby Cat. I feel like, you know, probably before this fragrance, I felt like maybe the closest one was probably Alexandria's Tomcat. And then, you know, below that, you kind of had the Ebony from Mason Alhambra. This was a really, really good interpretation. Just starts off, you know, I would say a lot more kind of peppery than what YSL's Baby Cat does. But in the dry down, it's extremely close, especially for the price. And then, you know, I would say below that, you have stuff like Paris Corner's Rafaka. Whereas, you know, Rafaka to me is a lot more kind of vanilla focused, doesn't necessarily have that much sort of like peppery spice in the initial opening of that fragrance. But again, man, this is easily, I would say, the closest interpretation of YSL's Baby Cat, like literally identical to Baby Cat. I've smelled them, you know, both on skin and on tester strips, side by side. There's no difference between the two. So, you know, obviously Baby Cat is a very hard to find fragrance, at least here in the United States. The Banadir version, like I said, is identical. And I believe, I don't know the exact price of the Banadir version of Baby Cat. I don't know if it's $39.99 or if it's $44.95. But it would be one of those two prices basically for the 100 ml. And if you go with just a 10 ml sample like this, it's going to be $10. If you're somebody who maybe, if you don't necessarily wear YSL's Baby Cat that often, but you still want that, you know, sort of scent profile in your collection, then I would say, you know, go for the 10 ml, and that should probably last you, you know, at least a couple of winters, probably, you know, especially if you're not wearing it every day. But if you are someone who regularly wears YSL's Baby Cat, and you're looking for something that is just as close to Baby Cat as you can possibly get, you know, again, with that sort of smoky, vanilla, sort of peppery, you know, Olabanum type of smell that you get from YSL's Baby Cat. If you're looking for that, then I would say Banadir, their version of it would absolutely be the one that you would want to look for, man. So performance on this is very good as well, well over 12 hours. And I would say the projection on this is basically, it's the exact same as what you get with Baby Cat. So it's a very, it is a very strong fragrance for sure. Like it leaves a very large sort of like scent trail. And it definitely is very kind of like diffusive. So it really, really does perform very well, man. So again, man, if you're looking for the best interpretation of Baby Cat, I would say absolutely check out Banadir Fragrances number 23. All right, and then the last one on the list, man, this one is another one from French Avenue. This is, you know, again, I would say probably one of my favorite releases from French Avenue, period. This one is Veneno from French Avenue. So this is their take on By Killian Smoking Hot. A really, really good interpretation of Smoking Hot, man. Not too many real differences between this and Smoking Hot, other than the fact that I would say that Smoking Hot maybe has a little bit more licorice in the, you know, kind of opening to mid of the fragrance, whereas this one dials back on that a little bit more, which I do actually prefer. But it's basically, it's like a very kind of like spicy, like smoky kind of apple shisha, you know, apple hookah type of smell, mixed with, you know, definitely I would say some, again, some spices, some woods. You get, you know, a slightly kind of boozy feel to the fragrance as well. I would say it's more spicy than it is boozy, but you do definitely get some booziness within the background of the fragrance. And man, overall, this is, like I said, it's one of my favorite releases from French Avenue, man. I really, really like this one a lot. This one I feel like is top tier in the cooler weather for sure. If you live in probably like anywhere else in the United States where, you know, you actually get like a summer, fall, winter, and spring, you know, like proper, you know, seasons or whatnot, then this one will definitely be one that you can also rock, you know, in the I would say the fall as well. Really fall all the way through probably like, you know, mid-spring for the most part. But, you know, at least for me, out here, I only kind of get to enjoy this, you know, for probably about 4 months at a time or so. But when I do wear this, man, this is really, really nice. All right. Performance on it is also pretty good as well. Well over 8 hours. Really, really decent projection, I would say, for about the first 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours or so. So pretty standard. And yeah, man, this is, again, if you're looking for something that is, I would say this is a very unique smell for sure. So it may not necessarily be for everyone, but if you're looking for something that gives you kind of like a sweet, but yet at the same time spicy and smoky type of smell, you know, like I said, it smells like, you know, you just walked out of like a hookah lounge or something like that, then I would say absolutely check out Veneno from French Avenue. All right, and that's the list, man. That is the top 10 list of my best, you know, wintertime inspired fragrances that I have in my collection. Definitely let me know in the comments what you all thought about the list. Let me know if you have any or all of these fragrances, and if you do have all of them, let me know what you all think about them, man. Let me know if you all love these fragrances. Do you hate them? Are they just okay? Let me know in the comments. Also, I'll have links in the description to where you can purchase all these fragrances, including the you know, honorable mentions. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Sense. I'll see you all in the next video.